I grew up, you know, my parents grew up in Corning.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, it's 4 o'clock. We're going to start the cohort meeting. We're going to learn what that means as we go. I'm Valerie Luzatis. I'm a professor at the State University of New York College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse, New York, former administrator. And I am going to be facilitating primarily today, and Jacob Mans, who we heard from earlier about this, will also be facilitating as well today. We have another colleague, Ethel Diaz-Orlandi, who will join us tomorrow for the cohort coordination as well as we do this. And so just as we're getting started, as I like that people are coming in and filling in tables so that we have bigger groups, but if you wanted just to get started, and yes, it says researchers, you can ignore that top line. We're making use of someone else's really good work. Teresa Pardo, thank you very much. Yes?
Point of clarification, this room was listed for the administrators.
Correct.
And that's what I was just saying, is that we're using the, so we can, if that's going to bother, I can try to take it off and just talk to you.
I just wanted to make sure we were.
So this, yes, this in fact is the administrators cohort meeting, and we've borrowed from the researchers for this initial thing just to have a visual behind us as we say, introduce yourselves to each other if you haven't at your tables already. So that's the first task. So just to give you an idea of what we're going to do for this afternoon is, first we would like you to do introductions around the tables with your group that you're with. And then we'll follow in by having a quick, like couple of minutes opportunity for every individual to put down some ideas of what your sense of this RISE network concept is, based on where we are at the end of this first day as we come together. So those are the first two tasks. But to begin, why don't we just take about 5 minutes at each table. In each table, do your own introductions around the table, and then I'll move us on to that next bit in a couple of minutes. Okay? And maybe you already know this.
Previously, Sort of over department. And it's a school.
So let's
The school operates a bunch of walls. Big enough to be in a lab on the side, or a lab on the
anybody want to do introductions and still need time? Are you done back there? Oh yeah, no, it's a conversation. Excellent. Have you solved the problems yet? Excellent. Good start. So if we finished up with the introductions, the last one, almost, have you introduced? Do we need some more time for introductions? Okay, so 2 more minutes, how about that, to finish up with introductions? 2, and then we'll pull together and do another quick something before we jump into some really good stuff. Warming up.
Sit there and stare at blankly at the water. I need to that's kind of especially when it's not June and July. Or any other season, you can run nice.
So many of our classes.
Very good.
face the front necessarily, so you can sit anywhere. With other colleagues would be great. So as we've had some more people wander in, say hello, introduce yourselves, and then we're going to do a quick writing exercise, believe it or not. So it'll take only a couple minutes, and you can opt out if you want, but there'll be a quiz in a minute. Great, so for those of you who've already done introductions and you want to get started, what we're asking everyone in the cohorts to do at this point is we'd like to capture your individual ideas about how you are understanding what this RISE concept is at this point. So this is one of these things where we're asking that be as an individual. So if you have any paper that the paper that you came in your notebook, I have one here. We can pass around and have a sheet of paper to make your comments on. What we would love for you to do is write down what you think about the RISE concept, and then if you want to put your name in it, by all means do so. Not necessary, but we'd like to collect them to keep this idea moving as a collective of ideas from across the whole group. And this is a concept that changes over time for all of us who've been involved with it from before this stage. I think it's not the same as it was at the beginning for any one of us. And so we're really interested to see this process as it goes forward. But we're equally interested to hear and read all of the ideas that are coming out of the conversations that we've been doing all day long today with this conversation. So if you wouldn't mind, please, to take a minute and do that. I think it's only about 5 minutes or so. It's about 20 after, about 4:25. Then what we'll do is launch into the real substance of the session, where we'll really start to look at what is it that we really need to do together and how might we do that. Questions?
Could you just restate, we're writing what we think our understanding is, or what we imagine it could be?
Yes. Right now, it's what is it that how do you right now understand RISE? The rest of what we will do, yeah, it could be a short sentence. It absolutely could be. It could be, yeah. So it's just a starting point from that. And then the rest of the time, we're going to talk a lot about what we imagine it could be and what we want it to be collectively. And that's really our task for today, is to understand that. If anybody needs paper, I have some. When you finish, if you want to just hold it up, we can collect them collectively at each table if you want. We'll pull them collectively just so they can get them out of the way.
Starting July 1st. And I have the same code.
Oh, yeah?
Hillary, just a
Yeah.
clarification.
How can I-
You want us just to write down what we think of as is great, but you're not to write down the
Correct. The focus is right now, how do you understand it at this moment, as opposed to, and we'll talk next for the rest of the time about what we think it should be.
I appreciate that. That's very helpful.
Beautiful, thank you. That's right.
You missed the introductions.
Wonderful. So we can put everything on the next slide.
Really proud of you.
Okay. So, yes, I will select any of the. All good. All of these over here, yes, okay. All right. Terrific. Okay, so. The cohorts of what we're doing today here is really to gather groups of people who self-identify into these groupings to really get a sense of what do we as a group of higher ed administrators or people thinking about administration understand this concept to be, and in terms of what it is we need it to be. And so for the bulk of the time, what we'd like to do next is have you at your tables have a conversation about a scenario, imagining, it's on the slide here, imagining the next conference and that we're celebrating the success of whatever this RISE network is. So what do you imagine the success is to be? What we really want this to be is a conversation around what is it that we need this to be. We've heard from speakers starting this morning, we'll hear throughout the rest of the time, this notion that we need to be doing things differently than we've been doing them in terms of collaborating with one another and finding new ways to be transformative. And so I think the question today is and as we heard from Jacob earlier today, this first day, what we want to come out with are bullet points of items that can be a mission statement about what we collectively see as important for this RISE network to become, and thinking about what it serves for you and your institution and what it can do for us collectively. Because we need to make that case at home and everywhere we go in order for anybody to be willing to participate in this. So how can it work? What would it look like in terms of success? And so I think this idea, we thank Teresa Pardo for coming up with some great ways to think about this. And the notion of thinking about success is just one way to address this issue. So what we're really wanting to consider and come out with by today, by the end of this session today, is a set of ideas that we can say come from this group that are essentially helping to identify what our end goals are with respect to RISE. So what is it that you'd like to see coming out of this? And to seed that, it's not that we're not requiring groups to have consensus about this or come to some sort of voting, but it's to collect the range of ideas of what we think this is important to be. And so in order to facilitate the process, What we'd like you to do is ask if somebody at the table would be willing to take some notes and identify that so that we could have notes that come out of this so we can bring them together as a group. And then we'll also do this, we're here, we have until 5:30 for the rest of the session. My thought was that if we did about 45 minutes of this conversation, and then at 1/4 we'll reconvene as a full group, and we'll kind of do a whip around sharing of some big ideas that come out of these groups. Does that sound like a plan that you think can work to do that? Is 45 minutes the right amount of time, or would you prefer that to be a little less, or and group discussion, or we're having a lot of discussion to start?
Yeah, why don't you poll us?
All right, why don't we do a 30-minute check-in, see where we are at 5, and see what you need, and if we're ready to have that full group conversation, we'll do that at 5. Okay, sounds great. All right, terrific. Go for it.
You need like a large paper scribe or?
Yeah, so good question. You have large papers on your table, and so ultimately, that would be great if you have if you want to put it on large papers, if that's the way we can post it for everybody to see all the ideas. And then we'll capture it that way. Thank you. Hi, come on. No, it's okay.
good things that come from right? So they were, so anyway, that's one thing. There were also dimensions that the how researchers, do a lot of research in the research partnerships in the US. So, how we help rebuild how support researchers, people who came to this study was actually responsible related to the material impact. Again, results vary. There were some good practices and there were some not so good practices. And the way I see it, part of the idea here is for us to think together about how we help each other out. Because this year it's riots in California. Some years back it was Katrina. So we're all vulnerable.
Let me ask you a question. I came here thinking that this was a decidedly here-to-stay event. Focused network among educators and others that are here to stay. This issue is national and global. So it be successful, fully national, it is. It is.
Yeah, I understand. All right.
I've been infrastructure and their capacity and so climate change, that's one it is not so if you just frame it like that, the question that I would ask how many networks I can tell you I have page after page. I cannot tell you it has not been the program, it has not been the pattern, it has not been the presentation, the relationship of it's the relationship. That's what I apply. I have a comment on today, a very short period of time, and the CEO was question is, turn it around. It's not trying to think what practice is. There is no way you can define it. I have tried to find it. I have tried to see the acronym. They already told us it's not an acronym. It starts with energy. It's resilience and sustainable energy. That was only one of the titles. That's not it. But the moment you start labeling it. So I would say rise is to rise above the individuality of individuals because personalities are physical organizations, institutions, public, private, state.